America, it's time for some straight talk. You love your phone. Look at you. You hardly put it down. But you don't love that expensive wireless plan, do you? So what if I told you can keep that phone network and number 2 for a lot less? Well, this is me telling you. It's time to switch to Straight Talk, guys. Bring your own phone and get unlimited plans starting at just $45 a month on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Here we are. We're back in better than ever, and really interesting stuff this morning as we are headlong into football 2017. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, and Dan Le Batard will join us from Miami in just a couple minutes here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. During the television segments here that we were running, we saw some of Jerry Jones' speech from the Hall of Fame the other night, and I saw that. Did you see Phil Knight made him a custom pair of Nikes? Yeah. Only the third person ever to receive a custom pair of Nikes, Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods being the other two. It just goes to show you the remarkable Jerry Jones. People tend to judge him based upon their feelings of how he has generally managed the Dallas Cowboys. The reality is, from a business standpoint, that's the reason Jerry Jones is in the Hall of Fame. Jerry Jones not in the Hall of Fame because his team's won 3 Super Bowls. Jerry Jones in the Hall of Fame because his business savvy has been as significant in the league as anybody's. And there's Phil Knight saying, I'm putting you on a level as far as how significant you've been to Nike with Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods.
He told some great stories. I didn't realize he tried to buy a team at 23 years old.
Yeah.
23. And his dad jumped on him and he said, Dad, you don't have to sign a note or anything like that. You're not responsible. And he said, I'm your father. He said, if something goes wrong, who they coming to? He goes, I'm always going to be responsible. And then the stories about with him and Jimmy Johnson, talking about when they parted ways, when he came home and just wanted to lay down, and his wife said to him, just had to stick your face into it. Just had to keep sticking your nose into it and making these decisions. Kind of jumping on him, and it was good. There's some really, really good stories.
The dynamic between the two of them, which is legendary, of course, was very interesting to watch on display during that, and very warm. At some point, these things become bygones.
And I'm glad it did, because it's a shame that relationship couldn't continue, because I tell you what, Jimmy Johnson, as a talent evaluator, is one of the best I've seen. One of the best I've seen. When he worked with us one year before the draft, when I was working the draft more, and he got up and went on the whiteboard and how he breaks everything down and decides things. It was like a PhD in learning how to pick players, and God knows he did it so well. It was very, very cool to see.
That won a championship on the college level and the pro level. We'll see. If you look, by the way, I was glancing through. Maybe we can set aside tomorrow and do some of this. The backlog, the logjam of people who were not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who should be. And then you will add 3 names next year that I think are Hall of Fame locks in Ray Lewis, Randy Moss, and Brian Urlacher. Not to say they're all going to get in the first year, because it's so hard to do that. I have to believe of those 3, Ray Lewis is a lock. Right?
Yes.
Is he a mortal lock?
I think absolutely. I think Randy Moss is close to that. I think Urlacher's close to that. But
I do too. But Moss, not the receivers. I mean, I can't believe Terrell Owens isn't in.
Well,
I just can't believe it.
The top of the list of those that have already been eligible and not in is T.O., right? And here comes another wide receiver in Randy Moss.
Those are the 2 preeminent receivers of their generation. Those 2 guys.
You tell me who you want. I would take Randy Moss.
You might, but you never. But T.O.'s been waiting, and Moss hasn't.
I'm with you.
And you're not putting them both in. It just doesn't work that way. There's no way they're both going in the same year.
I agree. And I think push comes to shove. I think T.O.'s going to be waiting another year, and Randy gets in. You think? Right off just initial thought?
I don't know.
Because I know Randy's had some issues too. I get it. But, man, they're really holding some things against T.O.
Okay, so and then there's Urlacher, who I think has the bad timing of being a player who was a historically great player at the same position as another guy
in Ray Lewis,
who was historically greater.
Yep.
I mean, Ray Lewis is Brian Urlacher is a no-doubt slam dunk Hall of Famer.
One of the great athletes to play that position.
But Ray Lewis is the same position and greater,
Yeah.
Even a slammer dunk or whatever. I don't even know how you would quantify that.
Dunk?
He's more of a slam dunk.
Yeah.
I mean, Ray Lewis has got to get in his first year, so I think that means that Urlacher probably won't. All right, we got a lot working here. Let's get Dan Le Batard into the conversation. You hear him every day, coast to coast, following us with Stu Gatz, and he is now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Good morning, Dan Le Batard.
I love that. A slammer dunk. More than a slam dunk is a slammer dunk. And as it applies to Ray Lewis, it was very nearly the slammer dunk.
Oh, well done.
That's well played.
Well played.
Took you a second.
That's well played. All right, we have two big topics on the table today, and the primary one we wanted from you, especially because of your your proximity to the situation, is with the Dolphins, and they're signing Jay Cutler, and they're not signing Colin Kaepernick. Both Mike and I immediately went to Cutler's relationship with Adam Gase. Then we had your friend Bomani Jones on a little bit earlier, and he said that Miami is the one market that forget about, and I've found Stephen Ross has been fairly progressive in a lot of his comments regarding the Kaepernick's stance. But Bomani brought up the issue of the Fidel Castro T-shirt and how that is the one market that would never possibly be accepted. What is your perspective on all of this from a Kaepernick standpoint?
Yeah, there's that, and there's the relationship with Adam Gase, Cutler having his best season with Adam Gase getting this job essentially because he was the quarterback whisperer who allowed, Cutler to make fewer turnovers, which is the fatal flaw with Jay Cutler. You go all around the league, Bob McAdoo, you got a bunch of people all over the league where they get their jobs because they're the guys who can make quarterbacks a little bit better. And so you understand where it is that Jay Cutler and this relationship would make it so that all other things being equal, Jay Cutler and Colin Kaepernick feel kind of equal. We can argue about it, we can split hairs, but they feel kind of equal. And so all things being equal, if you've got a guy who's got a relationship with the coach and doesn't have a controversy that involves Fidel Castro, that guy's going to get your job.
I got that, but let me rephrase the question. If Jay Cutler wasn't in the picture, or if Jay Cutler had said no, or if Gase didn't have this relationship with Cutler, do you believe the Dolphins would have seriously considered Kaepernick?
I do, because of the things that Stephen Ross has said, because he's been very vocal. He's been one of the few owners who's been vocal about it, saying that, Kaepernick should be in our league. So, but I did find weird that Armando Salguero report that they also considered Tebow and Kyle Orton. I mean, what's the next step on this, right? How many quarterbacks have to get hurt? We can make a plausible explanation for Miami, but are we going to always be able to make the plausible explanation? Like, are we going to be able to do this when Kaepernick gets passed over for someone like Kyle Orton? Because I don't know. I think your situation, Greeny, the Jets is the most egregious one, where you've got the owner, being ambassador to whatever, Great Britain, and a Trump supporter, and, just not anti-Kaepernick in just about every way. And then your quarterback situation is very obviously worse than what Colin Kaepernick would be there, when you've got a brittle Josh McCown who maybe in his prime wasn't even as good as Colin Kaepernick. That's the one situation I point to. I'm like, man, that's not right. That right there is the Jets not wanting politics in their huddle.
Oh, absolutely. Let me make very clear. I mean, they're my Jets only to the extent that I root for them. But I remember having this conversation with people at the Super Bowl, that there is no conceivable chance the Jets will sign Colin Kaepernick for exactly the reason that you just said. I don't think they're the only team in that boat. I would guess there's something in the neighborhood of 20 teams in the NFL that just flat will not touch him. And from the very beginning, I said the Jets would not.
Yeah, you said that right off the bat. Dan, does Colin Kaepernick have a job this year or no?
Well, it depends on how many people get hurt in that sport, Mike. Like, I got to think eventually it'll become so egregious and obvious that you can't deny it anymore. Like, there's still people out there arguing that Colin Kaepernick isn't being shunned because he took a knee. That argument is still being made. I got to think that this is the one sport. It'd be pretty funny if the Dolphins, if Jay Cutler got hurt, which would be the most normal thing in the world behind an offensive line that has been leaky. If Jay Cutler got hurt, then are the Dolphins going to pass on Kaepernick again if Jay Cutler gets hurt? Like, how many of these do we have to go through before Kaepernick has a job? The whole thing is a little bit weird that we're already here in the middle of August with a quarterback all of us would acknowledge is one of the best 100 quarterbacks in the world.
Yeah, I think we're past that point. Honestly, Dan, I think there isn't any question that the majority of teams in the NFL are just not going to sign him, and he's going to have to find that one team that is willing to do it and needs a quarterback. Do you not agree with that?
If I may, though, Mike. No, if I may, though, you saw what happened with the Dolphins, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is actually a funny situation that where you might not want to bring on Colin Kaepernick as your backup because the backup sits and might bring a bunch of whatever they call distractions and stuff. But the funny part about this is you might bring him in as your starter. If your situation is so desperate that you've got to be like the Miami Dolphins trying to coax Jay Cutler out of retirement because you're trying to save your season because you don't want to go, 2-14 because you're close. You feel like you're close and then the quarterback gets hurt. Like, to me, the funny thing is that Colin Kaepernick is more likely to be a starter than he is to be a backup. That part is weird because that's kind of where we are. Once the need and the desperation get such, that comes first. The need and the desperation when people have to start saving their jobs, when the customer base doesn't want to go 2-14. It's an odd situation to say, but I do think most people would agree with the idea that Kaepernick will be a starter in this league before he'll be a backup.
Dan, from the fans side of this, do you think it's all being overblown? I was reading about Michael Vick. When Michael Vick got out of prison and went to Philadelphia, the first day he went to work, there were 30 protesters. The second day there were like 15 or 20, and the third day there were 5, and then that was it. And it was over. If Kaepernick gets a job, would you expect that type of situation as well for it to be over pretty quickly as far as protesters?
Man, that's hard to say. I don't know what it is that everybody is exactly fearing here because, Mike, since the beginning on this, I've been a little bit confused as to why it is that this has been such a polarizing issue when if the starting point on kneeling is Colin Kaepernick's very reasonable request, hey, can we please stop killing black people unnecessarily and unjustly? Like, it's not, that by itself isn't that controversial. Like, the controversial part is the killing of black people. Protesting the killing of black people is not that controversial. And so the fact that we've arrived here where Colin Kaepernick has jumped from the sports pages into one of these transcendent symbols where he's no longer a football player. He is this issue. His name is associated with this issue, not being, a few yards from winning the Super Bowl. The fact that we've arrived here at all is confounding to me. Like, I just didn't think that in 2017 we'd still be in this place, presidential election notwithstanding, that we'd still be in this place where we're doing this with the color of skin, where the color of skin in 2017 is still something that is divisive. Like, it's just crazy to me that we've arrived here.
Well, I think we've all learned a lot about that through this process. But I just want one more quickly on the Castro element of this because that part of it I found really interesting. In Miami, that is a unique circumstance, and Bomani brought up what happened with Ozzie Guillen, and I remember, Dan, you being on our show multiple times after the Ozzie Guillen controversy along those lines. So if Cutler were to get hurt, could the Dolphins bring him in that city in a place where that part of it, forgetting about the kneeling during the anthem, but that particular part of it would be so controversial?
I think so, Mike. I think, first of all, I wanted Colin Kaepernick as the quarterback here. My parents did not want Colin Kaepernick as the quarterback here. And there is some generational differences because the dying generation is the one that has the most reason and the most pain inflicted by Castro. And so you have a lot of Cuban Americans like me who have grown up in this country, who've become Americanized, who've learned to think for ourselves because of the freedom that these exiles brought us. And so I don't agree with my parents on this. But what you're alienating would be an older Cuban and the younger Cubans who defend the passions of the older Cubans emotionally instead of rationally, because I will side with my parents on their pain over all else, no matter what it is that I believe. But in this particular case, I like Colin Kaepernick's skill set for the Miami Dolphins. So I would have taken him ahead of Cutler personally, but there's a lot of arguing back and forth about who's better, Jay Cutler or Colin Kaepernick. But the Cuba issue is an interesting one because I do think that the Miami sports fan would be myopic enough that if Jay Cutler goes down and they're looking at a season of Matt Moore, they might put their ethnicities and their politics aside to cheer for Colin Kaepernick.
All right, Mike and Dan Le Batard, who's with us. The other thing we've been talking about this morning, and now we're getting into a really complicated area as far as what is the obligation of a hugely successful public figure when he can, without wanting to be, become a difference maker on a significant topic. So you have Tom Brady last week saying, my personal health history is nobody's business. And you have Bob Lee saying, and I quote, the hell it isn't. and we've talked a lot about it here this morning. What obligation? Yes, I was taken aback by Bob saying it that strongly as well. Where, Dan, do you see, if anywhere, Brady having an obligation to be transparent and open on the issue of head injuries in a sport that has made him an iconic figure and all of that, knowing how important his words on the subject might be for young players?
Yeah, it's not in him, though. He's shown nowhere in his past, in that bejeweled resume, he has shown nowhere that he's willing to take a stand on anything. The Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter model it's a very lucrative model. The idea of, I'm just going to give you my excellence and nothing else, and that's all you're going to get, and it's going to have to speak for itself because you're not going to get anything else out of me on any subject that's interesting. And so what's happened in those circumstances, you win that much, and we'll fill in the mythology around you, whether you're giving us the words to do it or not. So I understand what you're saying. Like, yes, John Amici's theory is that LeBron James, if he wished to, LeBron James could help with the world's education problem and could help with the world's famine problem if he dedicated himself and all his resources and all his power to actually attacking that cause. Of course, Tom Brady's wife said last year that he got a concussion, and that became a story for days. If Tom Brady were to give a voice and a name and a face to this that's still living, that of course he can move the mountain on this, but he's not a mountain mover socially. He's a mountain mover on the field, nowhere else.
Do you feel players, there should be an obligation on their part?
Well, I don't want to push my sensibilities on these people. You are who you are. Like, I would like that, of course, but I'm in the content business. Like, I've got a bias, too. I want them to do that because I believe that all of us are sitting here playing games and that the real work is when, sports is the funhouse mirror where society goes to check its reflection. Like, that's what I want sports to be, but I can't expect Tom Brady to be that for me just because I want it. That would make me awfully selfish. Like, I want it. I want Tom Brady to be out there and be comfortable, be polarizing. Hell, I'd be fine if Tom Brady went out there and decided to be like a professional wrestler and just woof and be like Ric Flair. I'd enjoy all of that. But I can't force that on him when that's not how he wants to be.
He can't do that. Rob Gronkowski is too busy doing that for him. Yeah. He's Dan Le Batard, every day following us here coast to coast with Stugotz and Company. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
That's Dan Le Batard with us. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. He and all our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. That's an interesting part of the Kaepernick story. If you have followed, just to go back to that one quickly, the owner, Stephen Ross, whom I had the opportunity to hear speak a couple of weeks ago at the Humanitarian Awards, he is a guy who I think would have signed Kaepernick. I do. I believe he would have. The Castro issue that is so specifically important in Miami is one I really hadn't. I mean, maybe it's my own stupidity for having overlooked that side of it. But until Bomani brought it up as strongly as he did an hour ago, I really hadn't thought of that part of it. That might create more controversy in Miami than anything else.
But what's interesting is that Colin Kaepernick, what's being held against him is his views on things and things he said. But what did Dan just say? And that's why I went to Dan, because Dan's down in Miami. He said there would be people willing to put aside, if their team was in a position to need wins and they felt Colin Kaepernick could get them wins, people would put aside their views to then root for Colin Kaepernick to help them win their team. Yet that's exactly what's being held against him, is his views on things.
Well, so that brings up an interesting question because, look, I understand people who have a major issue with the manner in which Colin Kaepernick chose to make his protest. I understand it. I personally support his right to do it, but I understand that people do not. But I wonder if, and this would never happen, but I wonder if Aaron Rodgers did that. Would those same people say, I don't want him on my team? You know, if Colin Kaepernick, it's kind of hard to quantify how good he is right now.
Yeah.
You can make arguments that say, well, his numbers last year were pretty good, and then, well, it didn't really look that good all the time.
It gives you just enough of an out, where in Aaron Rodgers it wouldn't. Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame quarterback, so you're going to put him on the team.
Plausible football deniability on Kaepernick, just to say he's not
Which still is kind of a chuckle at this point.
There's no question in my mind that he is being blackballed by the majority of teams in the NFL. I don't even think that's a discussion point. It's an obvious fact. I also do think there are teams in the league that would sign him, and maybe none of them need a quarterback right now. But putting all that aside, I'm now talking about the people. I'm talking about the fans. Be as open and honest as this as you can. We're just having a conversation here. If that player, if the person that you are so offended by and upset with were 100 times better, name, I don't even know who you would put in this category right now. Was Cam Newton or was Aaron Rodgers or was someone who's just obviously a great player? Would your perspective change? Would you now want him on your team? I don't know the answer. I can't tell anyone.
Everybody's got to answer that themselves. But as I said, the better you are, the more leash you get. And I think that would be true in this case as well.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030. Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com. All right, we're Mike and Mike, and it is our pleasure to welcome the one, the only Herman Edwards into our studio. It's been far too long since I've said
you guys
that.
Been on vacation.
How are you? We were gone last week, but now we are back, and it is delightful to see you as always.
Good to see you guys. Always good to come on the show, obviously. And Captain America has spoken up.
Yes, he has, or not spoken up. One of the two, however you want to look at it. We'll look at it differently.
We got the Brady on the table today. We got Cutler, Kaepernick, all that. I do want to bounce one thing off both of you quickly in the last 15 minutes. Adam Schefter reported the Browns quarterback Brock Osweiler has been named the starter for their preseason opener against the Saints. Now, this is not a team from whom much is expected, but he is a guy with a big contract, and I think the general feeling is he's either going to be the starter or he's going to get cut.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to some people there and kind of following along, and they said at one point DeShone Kizer had been rising up and looking like he may grab the job. I know the last scrimmage they had, Cody Kessler didn't do himself any favors. Kizer played a little bit more like a rookie, and it was Brock Osweiler who kind of separated himself from the pack, and I think that's all they have to go on is who's looking good at the time and can go forward. And I thought Cody Kessler would be the starter at the beginning of the season. As I said, he didn't do himself a whole lot of good in the last scrimmage, and it seemed Brock Osweiler is kind of grabbing that job right now.
Here's the statement from their coach, Hugh Jackson. At this stage in the evaluation process of our quarterbacks, we're going to have Brock start the preseason opener against the Saints on Thursday. A lot goes into our evaluation, but it's always going to be about efficiently and effectively running the offense. You want your starter to be able to do that despite any circumstance. Brock hasn't really gotten any first-team reps, and this will give him that chance. We look forward to seeing what he can do with this opportunity throughout the week and against the Saints. Cody will be the second quarterback to take the field, followed by DeShone and then Kevin. I'm pleased with the way our quarterbacks have blah, blah, blah. So he's not getting first-team reps, Herman, and now he's going to start the preseason game.
And that's the problem when you have quarterback competition, when you have that many guys. They don't get the reps. You can't divide them up well enough where all the guys will, it's in today's football especially because you're not practicing as long as you've done in the past.
Only have one pad practice.
All those things come into view. So I think he's right. He needs to let Osweiler start, see how he functions with the first group. They got a problem because if Cody Kessler was supposed to be the guy, he played last year and he's struggling already. That's not a good sign.
So if you have, putting the coaching cap on, if you have legitimately three quarterbacks, you're looking for a starter. No, I certainly,
you don't have one.
Certainly
you got
understand
three,
that.
You don't have one.
So how do you have to, not so much practice, because you only have the one pad of practice. Yeah. In these preseason games, do you have to let each of them get time with the starters?
Absolutely. And here's the key, Mike. You want them actually to play against the other starters because that's who they're going to. You want them. I always tell those young guys, hey, this game you actually get to play against the varsity. Because generally they're playing against the JVs. Mm-hmm. You want to see them play against the guys they're going to actually play on Sunday. That's important. And so that's why the third preseason game was so critical in the fact that you knew you had some young guys. You wanted to get your starters in there to play a little bit. But it was the young guys that were going to have opportunities. I wanted to see how they were going to play against the varsity players. That's kind of important.
All right, so they're sorting their situation out in Cleveland. Herman is here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Jay Cutler is the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. He'll take a physical and then sign a contract today. Herman, your thoughts?
Well, that was an easy get for Coach. I mean, he's a guy that actually could go in right now and call a play. I mean, he could get you out of a bad play at the line of scrimmage. He knows the offense. Is he in shape? No, he's going to have 4 weeks to get in shape to play the quarterback position. I mean, a lot of people were saying was Deshaun Kaepernick. This is an easy sign for them. This is my sign, actually, and you'll remember, you're a Jet fan. We had Jay Feedley, and we had Vinny Testaverde. And we had Chad Pennington, and Chad goes down against Jacksonville. And Jay comes in, and 2 plays later, he goes down.
Yeah.
And so at halftime, I'm walking in the locker room. I'm going, oh, this is about 2 guys go down. We got Brooks Bollinger. And I'm sitting, I said, hey, call Vinny Testaverde. Vinny Testaverde's 42 years old. He's sitting at home watching it. And he's going, Coach, I said, can you help? I said, yeah, you can help us. Can you come back this week? He comes back. Brooks Bollinger plays against Baltimore, and then Vinny starts the next game, and we actually win with Vinny. But now we played 5 quarterbacks. That year we didn't win a lot of games, but this is the best scenario for the Miami Dolphins.
Explain why. I was trying, but do it from the coaches. Now, Cutler comes in with Adam Gase. So I tried to, we've talked about this a lot over the years, is when for a quarterback to learn a system, it's like learning a different language. He knows that language. So explain that of just how much easier it will be.
He can actually go in the offensive meeting room and sit there and understand exactly what coach is saying. He doesn't have to have any, we got to take him after practice and keep him here at night. He understands the system. He's going to catch it. He knows it right now. There might be a few nuances that he doesn't know, but he understands that. He could actually walk out today on the practice field and go in the huddle and call plays. He'd know what to do, right? I mean, he knows what to do. And, you talk about this is kind of funny. He says, well, you look at Jay Cutler, and what bothers you about Jay Cutler, his facial mannerisms, right? It just drive you crazy, right? But when you look at their records, he's 68-71. Colin Kaepernick is 28-30. Okay, Colin Kaepernick's 59% passer. This guy's 62. Jay Cutler's whatever you want. Okay, he's 11 years. I get it, but he knows the system. The players are going, oh, okay, we got Jay Cutler. They would be okay with Kaepernick, but Kaepernick, he would be learning the system. Now you got a guy that knows this. You got a guy coming in right now competing to be the guy. Now you're going to pay him $10 million, he's probably going to be the starter.
Right.
Okay? Because that's kind of telling you, Coach goes, Moore is okay, but he ain't the guy. I'd rather go with Jay Cutler. And basically, Coach is saying, hey, you know what? It's on me. It's on me. I know this guy. I'm bringing him in. And the players are going, if Coach is bringing him in, we're good. He wouldn't do this if he didn't think this guy could play.
Mike and Herman is here. If Cutler, how far would you have gone if Vinny had said, listen, I really don't feel like it. I'm not, what did you need to hear from him that made you feel like I can have confidence in this, that this is now again, you had 0 options at that point. It was into the season already, and you lost 2 quarterbacks. They're not in that situation right now. But Golick was bringing up earlier, is this something where Jay just kind of money talked him into doing it? He doesn't really want to do it in his heart. What did you have to hear to know, this guy's in?
Well, I think the relationship you have with him as a coach. I mean, this went on with Carson Palmer when he retired.
Right.
Remember?
Yes.
He retired. And Coach,
Hugh Jackson
was in Oakland. He said, hey, man, you got to come back. And everybody, and he came back, and it was awful. And then actually, after the Raiders situation, you said, he's done. Mm-hmm. Right? We said Carson Palmer's done.
Yep.
And we said Raiders said, oh, it's awful. He's done. Right? And then he goes to Arizona. Ended up being pretty good. Yeah. And so I just think you have a relationship with this guy, and look, Jay's not going, he goes to a place where he's going, I'm going to a pretty good team. They went into the playoffs last year. Now everybody's questioning that. Are they a playoff team, or did they have a good season? This is a typical NFL team. They're 8-2 in games 7 or less. Well, that's 30, 40 plays. They don't make those plays. Guess what? They're 6-10, right? So we're going to find out this year. Well, Jay gives them a chance offensively. Defensively, they still got some holes, right? They're the 29th in total defense, 30th against the run. Now, they go out and get Timmons. They draft 5 of the 7 players on defense to help the defense. Offensively, we got Landry. We got Ajayi. Hopefully he's going to be okay. You got a couple receivers we like but are always injured. Parker, right? He's injured. Steele is injured. Julius Thomas they bring in. He hasn't played up to his ability. So this is kind of an interesting football team.
From the other side of it with Colin Kaepernick, from a head coach relationship with a GM relationship with an owner, in your opinion, does every team already basically have the scenario played out whether they would take Kaepernick or not?
Yeah, and I think the teams that would like to have his services to compete at the position are being hamstrung by their owner. Look, guys, this is real simple. Whenever you hear it's an organizational decision, basically it's the owner. Okay? We said this before. I mean, look, there's 110 quarterbacks in camp. He's not one of them. No, that just to compete. They ain't letting the guy compete for whatever reason. And for me, it's real simple. It's business. It's all about business. And they're worried about the uproar, which we've seen before in other situations where players have kind of, lost their way. They've had some transgressions. We have players in this league with transgressions now. We have people in the front office that has transgressions and have gotten second opportunities. This guy is not getting one. Now, we're basically every week saying if somebody gets hurt, he's going to get a chance, right? We're actually saying if somebody's got to get hurt to get this guy a chance. 110 quarterbacks in there. He can't compete. It's kind of interesting.
No, there's no mystery about what's going on here. Bomani Jones said this morning he will be surprised if Colin Kaepernick ever plays another NFL game. Would you be surprised?
Ooh, I hope that's not the case. I would be surprised. Look, we can say what we want. The rookie of the year was Robert Griffin. He's sitting at home too.
Right. Totally different circumstance, but yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? So it can happen that fast in this league. But the quarterback, I mean, that's one of those deals there. We see a lot of guys that are on some rosters right now, and I'm not going to call in there. Mountain, you're going, really? That guy's the third guy and this guy? And, we've heard every excuse. He's too good to be the backup.
Right.
Really? Or here's another one. The coaches use this all the time. Well, if we get him, we got to change our system. Let me tell you a little story. When you lose the first guy, you change your system anyway. It don't matter who the second guy is. He ain't the same guy.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, it's hard.
I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Mike, and we are presented, as always, by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. Herman Edwards is in our studio. So, last Friday, Tom Brady finally responding to his wife's saying on television during the offseason that Brady, suffered a concussion during the last football season, which had never been reported. Brady saying he said a lot of words, but the ones that really mattered was he said, that's really nobody's business. Our Bob Lee, who's about as respected a voice as there is in sports, responded on television yesterday by saying the words, the hell it isn't, which is, for Bob, that's extremely strong.
Yes.
So, Herman, where are we with that? What do we make of Brady, whether it's, the privacy of his own health, which, of course, everyone understands and regards, the significance of the head injury topic. He's got it sort of in between his wife and the coach and everyone else on a subject like this. What is your take?
Well, my take is a player is naturally going to protect his career and himself. He's never, publicly going to state, hey, this is what I got. I've had concussions. I think at the end of your career, we can all look back and say, have we had a few? Yeah. Mike, you probably had some.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I've had some, and we weren't, the protocol wasn't as extensive as it is now, obviously in the era I played in, probably as well as you, Mike, and rightly right. So. But I think with this new protocol that we understand that we think is important for the players, for the protection of the players, because you got to protect them from themselves, right. Most players are going to deny they've had concussions. And I think it starts all the way now in high school and college. Because if that is a rap sheet, if that becomes on your rap sheet as a player, you've been concussed numerous times, guess what's going to happen? When it comes time to draft you, people are going to say, hey, you know what? This guy's been concussed a bunch of times. Maybe he's not a first-round pick. Maybe he's a fifth-round pick now, right? I mean, I'm just telling you that's how players think. I mean, that's the mindset of a player.
But boy, does that set up a bad self-fulfilling
I'm just telling you, that's what happens.
And that's the way it's been for decades. That doesn't mean things should change. And I think what will be interesting, Herm, because I agree with you. I said to get to the majority of players admitting they have some sort of injury, I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
But do I think some will do it more? Yes, because we've had more 30 and unders retire from the game of football. So I'm waiting for this new kind of wave of players to come through that are learning to tackle better. Coaches are being taught better of how to coach. And the next wave of coming through with everybody mindful of all that's going on. If we see a difference in that, if we see coaches with a quicker pull on someone, if we see parents get more involved, if players, and that's the big one, if players start to do it more, start to say, hey, I've got a situation here, I may need to come out. I don't ever see a majority of players doing it because playing that game, part of it is playing that game and just playing through things. And I don't think a lot of that's ever going to change. But it will be interesting with the new crop of players coming through under this era of where we are with head injuries if you see that number increase.
And you make a great point, Mike, in the fact that, they won't be looked upon as that, they're not tough.
Right.
No, they are tough. They just understand there's circumstances involved in this now, and it's bigger than just you. It's your life beyond football. And most of these guys, if you look at the numbers and the ages, most guys that play football, it ends for most of them when they're 23 years old, right? I mean, from high school to college to at 24 years old, your career's over for the most part. Now, the guys that continue to play, they have a platform to speak on, and I think the more that professionals speak on it, it really sends a great message to the younger guys saying, oh, okay, he said, well, I can say it, but here again, I go back to this. You have a series of these things happening to you, players, just their instinct is, I don't want people to know, right? Because I want to play.
See, the thing that happens, Greeny, along what he's saying is we can get to that point, I guess I should say, more players may get to that point and may not be looked down upon like it would have been in our eras. But if it's still held against them, then they're going to clam up again.
That's exactly right.
If it's held against him, just as Herm said, when you say, well, he's got a history of it, so they're not going to, maybe he won't be playing here, or maybe he won't get that offer there, or maybe I better keep him on the bench. If it starts to affect their play, then what does the player think? All right, well, I can either not do this anymore or I'm going to shut up. So you can get players, some more players starting to be cognizant of it and bring it up, but if it costs them, then it'll just go back the other way.
Well, so that is a self-fulfilling prophecy now, right? I mean, that's something that's a system that just continues to treat itself in a negative way. And that's sort of, so I guess, Herman, is the last question I have for you in the minute that we have remaining. Does someone like Tom Brady, who doesn't have that to worry about, whose legacy and place in the history of the sport is secure and has made, unimaginable fortune and fame from the game, would you have liked to have seen him step up a little bit and sent that message to young people? I'm not surprised what Tom Brady said. Not one bit. He's probably been concussed in his, as long as he's played. He's probably had some now, guys. Okay, look, I'm not going to sit here and be naive now. Right. I get it. I mean, I understand it. And in certain players, and most of the guys aren't going to say it. They're going to say, you know what? No, I'm okay. Look, and what's a concussion? What's the extent of it? I mean, what do we consider a concussion? I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, right? But I think most players are protective of themselves. Because here's what happens, Greeny. When you know a player is a little bit woozy and he's in the game, you've seen it, you're like, oh, okay, we got him. I mean, that's like, okay, let's attack the injury, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the game. I hate to say it, but it's the game. I mean, the players check the injury list every week. Oh, the guy got a knee. Oh, he got a shoulder. Hey, how's your shoulder? Oh, I don't know. Boom, hit him in the shoulder right before first play of the game. Hit the guy in the shoulders. Oh, his shoulder's still bothering him. It is only preseason, but Herman is in mid-season form. So good to see you as always.
Thanks,
Thank you, Herman Edwards.
All right.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com. Here we are, and all those and more on the table bright and early on this Monday, and so glad you've chosen to start your day with us. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, a lot of somewhat serious topics, and then we will get very, very, very funny. Keegan-Michael Key will join us coming up.
Oh, he's a funny man.
And you know, he was an iconic figure on our show because he was the voice who said Aaron.
Absolutely.
Which is what Aaron Rodgers became on this show for a very long time. And just genuinely one of the funniest people in the world. So he'll be here in our studio, and we'll have some fun with that. But two not-so-funny topics that are on the table to begin with. And I have one thought I wanted to make on this football head, concussion controversy issue. But first, I know there was one you wanted to bring up as well.
I mean, one of the ancillary things to this is more than a few people tweeting in that, okay, if football players are still not going to say anything, then years down the road they can't sue the NFL again, based off the concussion lawsuit where the NFL is paying out what I think it is $750 million. Well, I keep getting letters in the mail from lawyers, about that to be involved in that or to benefit from that, and certainly that's going to be a payout from the league to the players for keeping information back. Now, I don't know how from the legal side it works, but there's more information out there now than then, correct?
Of course.
More information than there's ever been. But I don't know the line of that. I mean, I don't know if a guy 10 years from now tries to sue the league and they take it to court and the court says, wait a minute, you have all this information, so much talk about CTE and everything that you did have information. I have no idea. But I understand your point. If players do hide it, listen, I'm not involved in the concussion lawsuit. I'm not involved in the opioid lawsuit. I knew risks when I signed on that, repeated hits to the head may cause something, may not, who knows. But I knew it was out there, and I knew when I was in pain, I took pain pills so I could play. I knew exactly what I was doing. Now, if you want to get into what information were you given, certainly, and one of the reasons the players are recouping that money is they weren't told enough about concussions, and that's the same thing they're trying to find out about the opioids. But from my side of it, I'm like, I took them. I knew why I was taking them, and it got me out in the field to play. So I'm not involved. I don't begrudge anybody who wants to get involved in that. That's fine. But going forward from the head injury side, I can understand that side of it. Will somebody try and sue the league again? But legally, I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, I guess you could have the right to sue whoever you want, but I would imagine because so much more information has come out now that I would imagine it would be looked differently from the courts from a decision standpoint of what was hidden and what's available out there now. But I'm certainly not a lawyer and don't know.
Look, those now you're getting into very complicated workman's comp issues that I don't fully understand any better than you do. I would keep going back to the line from Jerry Maguire, help me help you.
Right.
We're giving you all of this information, and you're still hiding this stuff. If you're hiding this concussion for all sorts of understandable reasons, I think it was Bomani who made the perfect analogy to it, or the perfect illustration of it this morning. Alex Smith was having a career renaissance in San Francisco. He was a bust first-round pick. Jim Harbaugh gets there. All of a sudden, he's playing great. They're going deep into the playoffs. Everything is going great. Boom, he gets a concussion. Boom, in comes Colin Kaepernick. Boom, Harbaugh decides, you know what? I like that guy better. Alex Smith didn't get job back.
Listen.
So that's what can happen, and so the players will leave themselves on the field for fear of being Wally pipped.
And it's not always ahead. Talk to Drew Bledsoe.
No, it's more frequently not
Talk
the head.
to
Bledsoe
Trent,
because of the shoulder, yeah.
Talk to Trent Green.
Right.
And why Kurt Warner was giving his Hall of Fame speech, the other day. The amount of times it happens, gang, and I'm not just saying with a head injury, I'm just saying players are used to hiding because most players, in all honesty, were more along my category, the foot soldiers, of saying, I can't be off the field. There's no way I can be off the field, or I'm not going to get my job back, and I'm going to be out of the league.
Now, here's the thought I keep coming back to, because you kind of compared this to parents who smoke, right? So if you're saying, if I brought up, does Tom Brady, and I want to make it very clear as people join us, I'm doing this in the form of a question, both to Mike and to anybody within the sound of my voice, because I think it's a really interesting question. Do you feel that a guy like Brady, who has benefited so much from pro football, look what football has done for his life, has some obligation to just the betterment of the game itself to be as forthcoming as he can on an issue of this significance, considering the issue is almost the mortality of the game itself? It almost feels like the game's mortality. I don't mean that in a literal sense, but figuratively. Mm-hmm. Is this head issue is exposing real potential concerns. And you said, well, look, there's a lot of parents out there that smoke in front of their kid, and, should it be a crime? But here's the problem you have with that. Your analogy is a good one. And I tried through the entire last commercial break, I tried on Google to find this on a search, and I couldn't find it. But you know that I spent last week in the UK, and I played a lot of golf. And I will tell you right now, I don't have statistics to put to this.
Smoking.
The percentage of people who smoke there relative to here, it's 50 to 1. And every caddy, literally every caddy in every golf course did. And one caddy was holding took out a pack of cigarettes to light one. And I could see there was a picture on it. Now, I haven't had a pack of cigarettes in the United States in a very long time. I know they all have verbal warning labels on them, right? Do they have horribly disturbing photos on them as well now? Because this guy's got a pack of cigarettes, and it has got a picture of a man lying in a hospital bed with tubes attached
on the
to
pack
him.
Of cigarettes?
On the package of cigarettes. I'm desperately trying to find it here. I Google searched UK cigarette package warnings, and I can't find that. There's a million others. If you want to have your day ruined, Google that. These are the pictures that are on the cigarette packages, right? So, and this particular one was of a guy lying there in a hospital bed, obviously 2 minutes from death, with his wife and some small child standing behind him crying. And my caddy is standing there looking at this picture and smoking the cigarettes out of the pack. And here's the problem, though. If you're football, you don't want to be that. You don't want that associated with you. You don't want, go play basketball and everything will be fine. Go play baseball, everything will be fine. Go play football and, here's a bunch of warnings about terrible things that may happen to you. That's not what you want. You need to find a way to be able to say, our game is safe or as close to safe as is possible. That's the mortality of the sport. It can't
You want to get through your career. You want to play as long as you can.
You do. I get that. But I'm talking about the people who run the sport, the owners and the commissioner. In order to continue to have a sport, you can't let people think that playing football is like smoking. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm not sure your point, though. So what? That's why I said that's why they're doing things now. That's why they have independent doctors. That's why they're pulling players off the field.
Right.
That's why the concussion protocol takes a player into the locker room. That's why it takes longer for a player to get back. They have started doing those things, saving the player from themselves.
Right. But if moms and dads are hearing a very honest Mike Golick, who played 9 years in the league and is concerned about this as you are, and he legitimately is saying, you know what, the reality is players are not going to acknowledge they have concussions. They're going to hide it because they want to stay on the field. And Herman Edwards is one of the most beloved former football players of all time and has as much personal integrity as anyone you'll ever meet, saying these guys aren't going to tell you when they have concussions because they're not going to become first-round picks. That's a problem. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a problem that just continues to perpetuate itself. So what makes that better? What makes that stop is what I'm asking.
That's what I said. I said right now there's way more acknowledgement of it and awareness of it. So will the next crop of players come? Not these. The next crop of players coming through, will they think differently? Will they have a different mentality, and will they pull themselves out of the game? I don't know that. Well, I don't know.
If I'm understanding what Herman is saying, Herman's talking about players who are yet to be drafted. So he is talking about those young guys. And they're saying teams won't draft guys if they have a history of concussion.
Guys in college right now that are looking to be drafted, they're in this system right now. They're learning all this stuff, but they want to go to the NFL. They know the game. They know how it's going to be played out. None of that has changed. As I said, you could all of a sudden have all the players in the world say, you know what, I have a concussion. or I have a shoulder, I have a knee, tap the helmet, I'm out, I can't play, and then they're out for a while. But if you see that eventually cost you, that's what's going to stop it, as I said before. So what's the answer? I don't know. Are you going to tell NFL scouting guys and GMs to say, don't hold that against them? Well, wait a minute. Now you're talking about a business, of a business of making money and jobs on the line, of bringing guys in. And if the guy's been on an injury list too long, you're not going to want to take the chance. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. So we already, as I said, have players admitting it more. Players are retiring. So it is happening, but it's going to be more of a trickle effect than anything else. But players still know it's going to cost them. And if they're fine with that, then they're fine with that. But the majority of players aren't. They're going to say, wait, I want to keep doing this. Now, as Herm said, a majority of players are done at 23, 24. I disagree. A majority of players are done at 18.
Right, or even younger.
Yeah, they're done after high school. I mean, the high school player to make it all the way to the NFL, is small. So the majority is Little League and high school. So to me, that's the concentration point. I'm in the NFL. You make your own damn choice. Okay? You have the information. You choose what you want to do with that information. Right now, that's why, I'm not, too many people in my eyes get rid of the game. Get rid of the game. Okay, we're finding out more and more, so let's find ways to help. Is it helping by hitting less during the week? Is it helping by teaching heads up? Is it helping by teaching coaches how to do things in a better way? Is it teaching to not do these toughness drills at a young age? Let's do things that will help along those lines to the majority of players who that's all they're going to play is Little League and high school. And then beyond that, you start getting into business decisions. And a lot of that then's not going to change. It's just not. Guys are going to, as I said, guys who get to college football, 1% make it to the NFL, 85% think they're going to. So they think they're going to do what they think they need to get a chance at that next league. And that next league, the NFL, is going to look at your injury history as far as whether you can come and play or we're going to take a shot on you in this league. And if we do, what round we take you in. So all we can do at the young age, in my opinion, is teach the game better. From tackling, get better equipment, do the whole thing better starting there and going forward. Make players more aware, make coaches aware, make parents aware of everything. Give them all the information that all the because we're always talking about the NFL. These guys are adults. They can make their decision on what they want to do. We can sit there and yell at the league. We can yell at the players to do this. But it's the youth football and the high school. That's where it all needs to happen. That's where you need the information. You need the change, whether it's less hitting, whatever, all the things I'm talking about that I could talk about over and over again. That's where it all needs to take hold. And then from that group of Little League football that makes it all the way to the NFL, the group right now that's in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And that's when I go and talk to these guys. When I talk to them, I said, you guys are the next NFLers. And it's a very small percentage. I go to talk to a team, there may be one guy or none from that team. One guy maybe that may make it all the way. And then he'll get up to there and then it'll be his decision on what he wants to do. But in Little League and high school, I think the NFL is doing something by pulling guys off the field. Now, not every Little League and not every high school can be in a situation to have an independent doctor there or have the great medical teams there to do all that. That's something else that you're fighting. That's why coaches and parents are being taught so much more to recognize things to help save the player from himself.
Right. It's just a complicated issue because I'm just putting myself into the position of being a parent with a young kid, because not only do 85% of the kids think they're going to make it to the pros, so do 85% of their parents.
They do.
And so if I've got a kid who I think is going to be really athletic and might have a chance to be a great athlete, and you're telling me I can sort of try and work my way around and through all of these hurdles you're describing and play this game, or I can play a bunch of other games that some of which might actually have similar head trauma issues, but no one talks about it.
No one talks about it if you go play.
I don't know about it. I'm not even aware of that. That to me is where the problem lies. And that's why maybe my analogy with the cigarette package warning wasn't a good one. But the point I'm making is you can't let the message out there be, this is a really dangerous sport. Play it at your own risk. Because
I think
that's not a good message.
No, I agree with that. But at that pro level and even college where it becomes more of the business, you get guys that are going to have that have to understand that. They are playing it at some risk. But there's risk in the game. There's risk in all games. Like you said, it could be other sports as well, but nobody talks about it. Everybody just talks about football. There are inherent risks, and the more knowledge people can have, the more they can try and help the game.
All right, on we go. Mike and Mike brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join DollarShaveClub.com. Today, a quarterback decision made yesterday. By now, you're well aware the Dolphins signing Jay Cutler. He'll have a physical this morning, is the information I have, and he will sign this afternoon and start practicing tomorrow. And people immediately look at that, and they're related to the Colin Kaepernick story. I think that there are two statements I will make that I believe both of them to be true. I do believe Colin Kaepernick is absolutely being blackballed by the majority of teams in the National Football League. Period. New sentence. I don't think that has anything to do with his signing. I think that even if Colin Kaepernick had none of the other things attached to his name that he does, I think the Dolphins would have signed Jay Cutler because of the relationship between him and Adam Gase. And as Herman Edwards said, and he said it so simply and plainly, Jay Cutler can walk into that huddle and call a play today.
Yes, he can.
And that's
huge.
When you're at the point where you are, like who wrote it yesterday? Dan Wetzel wrote a comment. He said, teams looking for quarterbacks in August usually don't have a lot of great options.
No.
You got to pick the best of all of your options.
It's the best option.
It was the best option.
It's without question, and it's the first name I thought of as well. It wasn't a decade ago Gase and Cutler played together. It was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And Cutler had a really good year, and I think he has more offensive firepower in Miami to deal with than he did in Chicago. So, and I can't tell you how big it is, the fact that he can't step into the huddle today, call a play. There may be, as Herm said, some nuances, but basically call a play and know exactly where to go. And who does that benefit to? The receivers. They don't have to, they have a quarterback that knows the system, that knows the routes, that knows the offense. It's just a great trickle-down effect. But you knew the Colin Kaepernick situation was going to come up. But in this one, from Kaepernick's standpoint, it was a bad timing award. Wrong team. It was just the wrong team. To me, it was the right move to sign Jay Cutler. So a 1-year deal. Again, we'll see what they do after this year. If Tannehill is out for the year, they can be out from under Tannehill's money and everything after this year. So it will be interesting where they go forward. But obviously, signing Jay to a 1-year, $10 million deal is he's going to be the guy this year, and then we obviously look to go in a different direction next year. Unless there's some kind of renaissance by this guy.
That's what I was going to say. Carson
a rebirth.
Palmer.
Yeah.
How many times has Carson Palmer been done? He's still playing.
Yes, he is.
Carson Palmer is still playing. So could Cutler come back and have a full another act here if he plays well? You're right. They don't have to bring Tannehill back next year if they want.
They don't.
If Cutler plays well, is Ryan Tannehill markedly better than Jay Cutler?
Oh, I think no. I don't think he's younger.
He's younger.
He's younger.
But Cutler's not old.
No, Cutler's
by the
34.
Standards of quarterbacks in the NFL today, Aaron Rodgers is 33. We don't think of him as old.
I'm not going to get ahead of myself here and start worrying about next year. Let's see what he can do this year.
Let's let him practice once first and then make that decision.
The table is set for him to be in a good offense, only one off season from not playing football. So a lot of people are going to say he's going to be out of shape. Yeah, but for a quarterback, I think he can get in shape. My question that I brought up earlier, and I don't know the details of him being talked into the game. Did he always want to come back? And was he just saying, I'm not sure until the money got to 8 figures? I don't know that, because there is a thought process of how bad does he really want to come back, or was it just too much money? He couldn't turn it down, so I'm going to come back and play football. That could be an interesting situation.
Or maybe was he looking for a situation that was really right in every way?
Very well could have been.
Which is to say, he believes he can succeed.
It can't be any more perfect than this situation.
Because they're good, too. Yeah. The Dolphins have a good offense.
They're good. He knows
players.
The offense. He has good players. He could not have stepped in to a better situation if he, in fact, did want to continue playing football.
Okay, I have time for one cute story here. I've been holding these all morning long. I'll let you choose. You want the one that involves a legendary former coach, or do you want the one that involves food?
Oh, I think we know the answer to that.
We'll go food.
All right.
Okay. There are people upset, Mike, in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. In Georgia?
People are upset in Georgia. And here's why.
Okay.
Because Georgia, the University of Georgia's football stadium, Sanford Stadium, has added a bunch of new food options for this coming fall.
They're upset by that?
In and of itself, you would not think that would be a problem. One of the places they've added is Dreamland Barbecue. Texas-style barbecue.
Yes, Dreamland.
Right? I don't know it myself, but you are very big on the barbecue.
Big on the barbecue.
Well, people are looking at that. Do you know where Dreamland, where the original location of it is, and where I guess people in the know, the barbecue cognoscenti of the world,
right.
sort of associated with?
I know.
Okay.
It's in Alabama.
It's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Right, yeah.
And it is beloved by Bama fans. So I'm looking at a series of tweets here. Someone named Mac Williams tweeted, "Why in the hell are we serving Alabama barbecue inside of Sanford Stadium? Must we now lose to Bama on the field and at the concession stand?" So I ask you, do you have an issue with Georgia setting up a barbecue place in their stadium that feels representative of their arch rival?
3 words. Get over it. Eat the barbecue. It's damn good barbecue and enjoy it. Okay? That would be my advice.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I knew you were going to say that.
Okay.
I knew you were
By the way, we have a nice home and home going on with Georgia. They come to South Bend this year, and then we head out there.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, really looking forward to that.
That is interesting
Yes, it
scheduling.
is.
When in the season is that?
Second game. Notre Dame opens with Temple, and I believe it's the second game.
Okay.
They play Georgia,
that should
comes
be
to town.
interesting. Okay, so we'll get to that.
Okay.
We will talk about that in a minute. But if at Notre Dame Stadium, where I was just on the campus for the first time in forever for the wedding, is beautiful and everything is there, and the legendary stadium in Notre Dame, if they started serving In-N-Out Burger, if they decided the burgers there are going to be In-N-Out, which is so associated with Los Angeles that when you think of In-N-Out, all you think of immediately is L.A. You think of the campus at USC where everyone is running out to get an In-N-Out burger, and then all of a sudden they replaced whatever hamburger you could actually get right now at that stadium with the In-N-Out, which is so associated with USC. What would you say?
Buy stock in it. Are you kidding me?
You're a fan of the In-N-Out.
They used to when Notre Dame when my boys were at Notre Dame and they go out and play USC every other year. Yeah. They go out there. I believe it was at Stanford too. Is after the game they'd all have In-N-Out.
They'd all go to In-N-Out. Yeah,
they don't go in. They didn't all go to
it.
Yeah, the whole football team has been driving in.
We're much too important to be actually making the trip.
Go to drive-through. You know,
I don't need my monster sauce that badly. But my question to you is: now they're serving that in the stadium at Notre Dame, and that's okay with you?
No problem at all.
Okay.
Zero. In fact, I wish they would.
Fair enough.
In-N-Out burger?
Yeah.
Animal style?
Yeah.
Are you seriously?
Yeah.
You could put it in my house. You could put it amongst all my Notre Dame gear. You could put In-N-Out Burger, home of USC, and I'll scratch it out with a magic marker, and that's fine by me, but I'm eating the damn burger.
All right.
It's an In-N-Out Burger.
I don't want to get into an argument about that right now because we'll take us away from where we're going.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com. Hi, we are Mike and Mike, and you know, we get to do a lot of really cool things here, and every once in a while we really look forward to, and this is one of those. For those of you who know our show, you know that for about 3 years, Aaron Rodgers was referred to exclusively as Aaron on our show, and that was because of the genius of Key and Peele, and Keegan-Michael Key is here with a bunch of new projects to talk about. It is such a delight to have you here. We're both huge fans. How are you?
I'm doing great this morning, you guys. It's a real pleasure for me to be here.
We played that so much. We talk about it so much. But for you, I mean, because that was a while ago. So we start by talking about it. Is there a part of your mind that said, all right, let's move on.
Let's move on to the next thing.
Let's move on to the next thing, okay?
You know, it's funny because you want to always celebrate it because it's one of the things that put us on the map. I remember my manager called me maybe 3 years ago on Thanksgiving, and he just on the phone he goes, have you seen the hits on YouTube for the substitute teacher? And I went, no. And at the time it might have been 12 million hits. It's like 120 now or 140. Yeah. And so, and I said, and that's when he knew, like Golek, we were just talking about word of mouth for a piece of entertainment. And that's when we knew something was happening, that something was starting to happen.
The whole Key and Peele thing. What, if there's one thing, is that the one that most people will quote to you? There's all the college football names. Yeah. Which is the one thing you will get the most when people walk up to you in the street?
That's the thing. The second I get above 23rd Street, New York City, I live in New York City, the second I get anywhere near, even sniffing Midtown, hey, Ron! Hey, Ron! You just start hearing people just screaming at you across the street. You know, New Yorkers, they don't care. They're just like, there he is. Yeah. You're hilarious. You know, hey, Ron, there's the guy. There's the funny guy. You know, it's just that nobody needs to stop you or take selfies. If a person wants to take a selfie, they're a tourist. If they're in New York, like, good for you. They just keep going. All right.
You guys, and I want to talk, you have two fascinating projects you're working on right now, including one that will be very near and dear to
dear to my heart. It's big in the household all the time. Yeah.
Because of his love of Shakespeare. Yeah. But Billy Shakespeare, Mike, is a well-known writer.
Yeah. It's friends.
But the Key and Peele, you guys were so monumentally significant. I mean, it was the ultimate in water cooler conversation, and you were the cover of magazines and all that kind of stuff. And it felt like you kind of walked away at the very top of it. And I've never had a chance to ask you what made you guys decide to make that creative decision at a time when it felt like you were at your very most relevant.
Well, for me personally, I would have to say, because I'm such a huge Barry Sanders fan, being from Detroit, you should just quit at the top of your game. No,
now you can add Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson. That's our new thing that we do in Detroit. We would sit in the office sometimes, and we'd be exhausted and kind of not figuring out why we were exhausted. And then we realized we both were working on other projects on the side. What was happening is when you create a show and you're the head writers of the show and you're the stars of the show and the producers of the show, that was a good 10 and a half months out of our year. And anytime we were on hiatus, which would be a week here or a week there, 3 weeks here, I would just fly someplace to go make a movie. And I realized it wasn't going to be sustainable. And then one day, just sitting in the office, we both said, Jordan just looked at me and goes, you feel like we're getting toward the end here? And I said, I think we're almost done. And it was mutual without us having even discussed it. And it seemed like we were just kind of symbiotic in that way. And all of a sudden we both said, we both want to pursue other things. We wanted to pursue other things and start to spread our wings in other ways. Spread our wings in some ways, go back home in other ways. And Jordan, his mind is bubbling with ideas all the time. And he wanted to write and produce. He wanted to get back behind the camera.
But
it worked out pretty well.
Being the operative word.
In him and Get Out, he was hilarious in that. Yeah.
I mean, he's just amazing. For him to have been able to take a dream of his, a passion of his, which is horror movies, and take that whole genre and flip it. And I mean, to make a $5 million film and make $250 million
worked out okay.
It worked out okay. The breakup worked out okay. Good job, John Lennon. Let's see if I get McCartney in over here. Right?
Keegan-Michael Key is with us. One other thing before we get to the current stuff that I was just fascinated by, because when you performed at the White House Correspondents' Dinner doing, what was the exact wording? The angry President Obama?
So his name is Luther, the anger translator. The president's anger translator, yes.
How much pressure is that? Because, I mean, you've got the president sitting right there, and, you know, I think everyone is going to take their cue from him as to whether it's funny or not.
Yeah.
Just how much pressure was there in that performance?
There was more pressure in the rehearsal, but after I rehearsed it with him in the West Wing. Once we finished the rehearsal, I was okay for the rest of the show. But by the way, before I got to the rehearsal, I had memorized all of the lines. His lines and my lines. I figured he's got his mind on other things like running the entire world. So maybe I should just in case he gets tripped up. But we started doing the rehearsal, and in the rehearsal, he said, "Come on, Key, this is funny stuff, but you gotta keep it together." And I was like, "Yes, sir, I will keep it together." So he utters his first line, then I utter my first line. And then he cracks up.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, sir. And he's like, I messed it up. That was on me. So we broke the ice there. And then by the time he got out on the dais, it still felt dreamy. You know, I was like they introduced me, and I just walked out there and I went, we're doing it. Well, there's no turning back now. I'm walking on the stage. There's no turning back now. But his energy, his comic timing was amazing. I couldn't, to be that good of a straight man, it's tough to be a straight man. He was terrific.
Was there, this is off limits, anything you couldn't do?
No, we actually, the writing beforehand, because it was, I would say because it was pretty tepid what the cycle was at that point in time, we could make fun of just about anything we wanted at that time. It was pretty carte blanche right there. Yeah.
Things have changed a little. Keegan-Michael Key in studio with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, 2 different projects going on right now, including the Netflix series, which, as you were just describing to us, is really shot almost as a film.
Yes.
Friends from College.
Friends from College, yes. So Nick Stoller, the great comedy director, he and his wife put together this series, and it's been an absolute blast. I'm in it. Kobe Smulders from How I Met Your Mother's in it. Fred Savage, Wonder Years fame, and he wanted to make it like a film. He wanted to design a program that would be for binging. So it's not a self-contained thing. You kind of, once you start watching it, it's like potato chips. You want to keep on going because it's every plot of every episode is threaded into the next episode because it's really just ostensibly a 4.5-hour movie. Yeah, but I think that Netflix is starting to do more and more of that kind of programming where it's not self-contained episodic episodes. It's more like long movies.
I am if binge watching put on weight, I'd be 500 pounds because this is now made for me to binge watch.
This is for you, Google. This is designed for you.
Yeah. What is the show? Tell us about the show.
So the show is about a group of 6 friends from college. They're a really close friend group, which is the term everybody's been using now. I didn't even know when that came around. Friend group, yeah. Friend group. So this friend group, there are 4 people that live in New York City and Manhattan, a couple that moved from Michigan to New York City, and now all the friends are back together again in one place. One of the wrinkles would be that the lead character I play, his name's Ethan Turner. He's married to Kobe Smulders' character, but he's been having an affair with another character. They've been hooking up for like 20 years. But he's been married for 10 years. So what happens is in the middle of all these hookups in this relationship, he'd travel to Chicago once a year. They'd have a little fling.
Right.
But now they live within about 60 miles of each other. And now it's like, how are we going to work this out? And that on top of the fact that they're all kind of trying to grasp what it feels like and means to be 40. They're trying to come to terms with children and their lives, and then playing the old tapes and acting like idiots when they're with each other. When you see your old friends from college, you're like, I'm 20 again. I'm 20. Yeah. What the hell? I'm making these stupid decisions. What's wrong with me? And it's all that encompassed, and it's really wacky and zany, but also there's some good kind of dark, poignant stuff in it too.
It's on Netflix right now. It's available. Friends from College with our new friend Keegan-Michael Key. And then you are also currently at the Public Theater in New York City, which for those who don't know it around the country is an extraordinarily accomplished theater.
Yeah.
Hamilton started there. A lot of really, really well-known stuff.
My second home.
And you're doing...
Looks there all the time.
Oh.
And of all times, this would be the time because he's doing Shakespeare.
Willie
Shakespeare.
Willie S.
Yeah.
You're a big old Willie S.
He's doing Hamlet. What was the last time you had Shakespeare month at the house? When you guys do your readings.
Talking about omelet or Hamlet?
No, Hamlet.
Hamlet.
Not omelet.
Hamlet, Mike. Yeah.
I think probably last year we had Hamlet month in the Golick house. All the kids had to write.
That's when you emailed me with the invitation,
exactly,
right? Exactly, because we were going to also just that was the appetizer. Then for the full meal, we are going to do Lear and do like a little Coriolanus or Winter's Tale for the dessert, right?
Yeah.
Was that right? Yeah.
Whatever you said. Yeah.
He doesn't mean Norman Lear, by the way.
I was just going to say, Norman Lear get into this one. I love that
guy. But most people who don't know much about you would not associate the guy who was the substitute teacher with doing Shakespeare. Is that sort of dramatic acting always been a part of the repertoire?
Yes, that's my training. That's my training. I was trained as a dramatic actor when I was younger, and I ended up, once I got out of school, I ended up going on this 19-year detour into sketch comedy. I had no idea that was going to be what my life was. It's worked out pretty well, but being at the public is like coming home. It's a dream come true, but it's also like coming home because it's getting back to the Shakespeare work, the dramatic work, and it's a direction we're kind of pushing the boat in right now. And it's a beautiful space. And this is also, this is the theater where Shakespeare in the Park started. When people go to Central Park and see the free Shakespeare every year. And the amazing Oscar Isaac is playing the titular role of Hamlet. And he is absolutely amazing. Here's what's amazing about Oscar. He knows the language so well and knows the play so well that the way that he does it is so accessible that even someone like you, Greeny, can understand it. I mean, Golick knows this stuff in his sleep.
Well,
but someone like you, Greeny, could really could understand it. Right? It's been made to be very 21st century, very grounded, and the language I didn't know. I was like, oh, is that what he's been saying all this stuff, all these years? But
see, that's the thing. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
How they say it all, I just can't deal with.
Part of it is sometimes you can't.
I don't understand it.
How do you get all those words out of your mouth?
Why can't they just speak English?
That's right.
Maybe if I went to the show sober, I'd be okay.
That's why you enjoyed it so much, right?
So there are two different ways that you can see Keegan-Michael Key now. For the next month or thereabouts through the early September, if you're in New York, he's doing Hamlet at the Public Theater, which I'm sure is sensational. I would love to come to that. And available right now on Netflix, Friends from College. You can download and binge watch the entire thing.
Oh, man, I'll be doing that. I want to ask real quick, for your profession, what has Netflix done? For being TV, started on stage, you talked about, but then TV to where Netflix has taken everybody kind of to the next level.
From our side of the industry, what Netflix has done has allowed the actor the opportunity to play bigger, more fleshed out characters. Because as I said, especially Friends from College, this new movement of making a show, designing a show to be binge worthy is what allows us to play a character. Like every actor wants to be in a 4-hour movie. Most actors are. Just by the time you see it in the theater, it's been cut down to 2 hours or 98 minutes.
Right.
So we're now given this opportunity to do all different kinds of varied work. And because Netflix, as I said, I was saying earlier, they got this great kind of throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks mode of action that they use. And I think it's really helpful for us because you get to play different types of characters, different varied kind of roles on a really legitimate platform. And that's what it means for the actor, the actor specifically, is that you get to play exciting roles, tell stories that we've not been able to tell before, and they've provided us that opportunity.
What a treat this is to have you here. Best of luck with it all.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much for coming.
This has been fantastic. Everybody go to that In-N-Out. That In-N-Out by the
seriously, I mean, who's not?
Who doesn't want to go? Why is there ever? There shouldn't even be a discussion about this.
Never. I don't care where it is.
I'm not going to get in the middle of this because I have my own feelings about it-N-Out that I don't.
Why don't you leave?
I want to take over the entire.
We're going to talk. I want a 3x3 animal style right now.
Oh my!
3x3 animal style right now.
I'm hungry.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, I don't know. It's hard. I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Very enjoyable time we had with Keegan-Michael Key here, who is incredibly smart and incredibly funny and just a delight in every single way. We had planned to set aside the last few minutes here, Golick, for you to talk about Darren Dalton, who died yesterday, and he was a player for the Phillies for years, whom you knew during your time playing in Philadelphia, and now we have just received word of the passing of another legendary baseball player from a similar era, I guess a little older than that, Don Baylor, who was the MVP of Major League Baseball in 1979, or the American League, in 1979, has died of cancer. He was 68. His wife, Rebecca, in a statement said, Don passed from this earth with the same fierce dignity with which he played the game and lived his life. He played for the O's, the A's, the Angels, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and Twins over a 19-year career. Again, he won an MVP, was a frequent all-star, led the majors in RBIs and runs scored, reached the World Series 3 straight years from 86 to 88, won with the Twins in 87. He was a tremendous hitter.
Yeah, without question. 68 years old, Darren Dalton, 55 years old. Had been Darren Dalton dealing with cancer, I believe, for the last
brain cancer,
3 or 4 years. Yeah, it's sad. Both quite honestly too young to pass from this world, but unfortunately that's the situation we're in. Again, with Darren Dalton, when I was in Philadelphia, we shared the Vet Stadium, the football and baseball, and the two teams, the Eagles and the Phillies, shared the bathroom area, showers and everything else. So when I got there, Dalton was there, Lenny Dykstra, John Kruk. Kruk was the first one of the guys I met on that team. So got to know them. I didn't know Dalton as well as like I knew Kruk, but certainly got to know those guys and sharing and being basically in the same proximity. But so then those teams too. I mean, what a wild time with those guys, no doubt about it. But Very toughing out now
Don
with Baylor. Yeah,
who was a manager for years in the major leagues. I mean, he was a significant, hugely significant figure in the sport at this point for something like 40 years. So certainly our condolences out to his family and his close friends, and I'm starting to see a lot of reaction now on social media. And if there's one thing that I'm reminded of in both of these cases and every one of them, is that I try not to use the word hate very often, but boy, do I hate cancer. And in the last 2 days, it took from us two really young men, 55 and 68 years old, who had a lot to offer, and that just, I don't even know exactly what more to be said than that. But they're seeing a lot of reactions.
Oh, you're going to see so much but for Don and obviously for Darren as well. I'm sure they'll be seeing it throughout the day. And again, no good ever comes out of that. But you will get, for those that don't know enough about them both, you'll get to relive a lot because I'm sure you'll see a lot of the highlights and read a lot more about these two men and what they did for the game. All
right. On that somewhat somber note, we very much appreciate you spending this Monday with us. And we'll see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow for more fun with Mike and Mike.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.